nicht wann macht feeds in the show. We can have it. It'll be wonderful.
I know you're trying to do a show right now.
Yeah, there it is. We got the.
All right, everybody, what's going on? I'm back. Short break to eat some taquitos.
Ooh.
And now it's myself, Fast Eddie Fear, taking you up until the 3 p.m. lock for FanDuel and Yahoo, I guess. I don't want to...
Yeah, it's the main slate on Yahoo, too, which is why it's really hilarious. Yahoo, whatever it is, I think $50,000, no management fee, no rake there. Okay, that's pretty exciting. We'll take a piece of that.
Yeah.
FanDuel, $1 million, $200,000 to first, and a somewhat random, some might say stupid promotion. And DraftKings, literally no slate for several hours. Like, not just, like, no showdown. No Turbo Express 3-game mid-afternoon delight. No slate. Which is just really funny. Main slate, nothing on a site that has 5 slates today.
And now apparently FanDuel has a bunch of additional slates throughout the night at 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. None of those existed until like 11:30 this morning. But
did they, yeah, I was about to say, I looked earlier today and I'm like, that's weird. There's nothing late on. Okay, well.
They screwed the pooch on this one.
There was some pooch screwing going on.
As usual, live before lock is the promo code, one big word, 50% off your first month, any package with us, any monthly package, including Fantasy Cruncher. And we are brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. Is there a game that you want to touch on more than anything in this morning slate? I've already talked about every single one of these games recently, so I do want to defer to get your thoughts in as much as we can. So what is catching your eye most?
I like Brandon Ingram a lot more than Kyle Kuzma, especially at his prices. I've just eye test, having watched a lot of Lakers basketball. Kuzma does pretty good with LeBron out there. Does extremely well with Lonzo out there. Yeah. I can't speak really to Caruso, but when Ingram does a lot of the ball handling, which I expect to see a lot of here, and then probably him the most, then Lance the second most, Caruso the third, I'm guessing. Kuzma not as good and expected to be super popular. So when looking between those guys, I'm a little more on BI than Kuzma.
I agree.
I want to specifically mention the overlay on FanDuel. Right now, the contest on FanDuel is like 40,000 entries short of filling, and should overlay. And if not, that shouldn't fill. Again, it's got $600,000 or whatever coming in right now and paying out $1 million. So I guess they're actually closer to about $700,000 right now. But $12 an entry.
Yeah, they need 83,000 entries or whatever to just be even, Steven.
Yeah, that would be about it. And even that makes it rake free is pretty exciting. So, but yeah, they have a contest where in partnership with our good friends at Fantasy Cruncher will at some point publicly generate a lineup. And if your lineup matches that lineup, you win $1 million. But it is at random from every player on the slate. So amusingly, this includes, Anthony Davis and Chris Paul and Lonzo, but also includes Isaac Bonga and Waylon Gabriel. And so there's certainly a non-zero chance that the lineup spit out for that contest is unlikely to be played by another player. So that's pretty fun. But I wanted to take a minute and specifically mention that overlay.
You can also get $50,000 if you have the most guys that match. So I'm really curious to see how many guys match in a lineup.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna. If no one has it, I have a feel. It obviously depends on the lineup, but I'd be surprised if you didn't have that 50K split a lot of ways. Just because it's going to be like 8 or 7, and I have a feeling there's 100,000 entries.
I would have said maybe 6. If it can be anybody.
Yeah, it obviously depends just how random. But you're right, with correlation. Oh, you're saying just how many do you think it'll be? Yes, it's not going to be 9. I think we can be fairly certain. I don't know what the odds are, but they're certainly well under 1%. Random, this percentage usually matches. Yeah, I would say 6 would be my if you asked me to pick a number, I would bet on 6, I think.
Yeah, craziness. I'm just anxious to see it. But anyway, we should probably touch a little bit. The only major thing that has changed since Adam and I have talked is that Aaron Gordon is now out.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect your thoughts on the Magic today? or the Hawks for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked Vooch quite a bit. There is just a massive, massive upside there against obviously the Hawks. So I was already a fan. Now I'm more of a fan. The rebounding upside goes out when you're dealing with Isaac will start at the 4. They've already said they're going to start Simmons at the 3 and Isaac at the 4 like they did last time. Price obviously has come up on Isaac, but I still have some appeal. I think it's 4,800 on FanDuel. That's in play in tournaments on what ends up being, a medium-sized slate and a guy who can do steals and blocks and get some upside. But it was really tough because he's a small forward there, and there's a lot of small forwards I like at price when you have Mirotic and Ingram and Lance at the minimum of 3,500 is going to be super popular, and $4,100 Torian Prince deserves to have some ownership, and Durant on the top. So it's really hard to get to Jonathan Isaac at that point. But DK makes some sense, and I think he's 13 on Yahoo, where small forward is actually pretty shit.
It's awful.
I don't know if you have Yahoo up, but I tinkered with it for like 5 minutes earlier today, and I was like, Jesus, small forward is terrible. It's
super flat. That was one of the things that I just entered my 10th lineup into Yahoo. As you said, do you have Yahoo up? So
yeah.
I do in fact have it up. The spread between, and obviously Kevin Durant is the best small forward that is there. We're talking about, relative to their salary. The spread between like Durant all the way down to Jason Tatum or KCP is super narrow on like a dollar for dollar basis. I don't have anybody more than in more than 3 of the lineups. I'm using 8 different small forwards in 10 lineups. Like it's a grab bag.
Kuzma is going to be the chalk. That's just another thing that's going to force massive Kuzma ownership. So I'm a big fan of trying not to play him there if you think you can possibly get away from it.
Yeah.
Also, Yahoo shout out to Marcus All, by the way. 23 is too cheap for him against the Pellies, who play faster without Anthony Davis, and better matchup for him, and I certainly expect him to play. So shout out for Marcus All there, who I go back and back with him, and Vooch is my favorite center there. But
those are the 2 that I have in abundance: 60% Marcus All and 40% Vooch. One lone Gobert lineup giving me 2 centers.
Yeah, there you go. That's
You nailed that one.
Yeah, it seems I just looked at the center and I'm like, because normally they have some number of dumb centers, but due to the matchups, I don't mind Jared Allen at 25. That works in a tournament. Sure, that's fine. I can do that. Nurkic at 33 obviously can get there, but I would much rather play Gobert even for 40. Gobert does a very good job against Nurkic, so I love Nurkic, but this is one of the few spots where really hard for me to see him carving out the upside. He's certainly never done it before against Gobert, and I'd be kind of surprised if he did it here. I think you could play Dedmon there at 19, wouldn't be totally out of play. But yeah, I think Gasol and Vooch on Yahoo are demonstrably the best 2 centers by a pretty clear margin. While looking at that list, I see DeMarcus Cousins. I'm curious your takes on Cousins today. I see we have him expected to have a pretty healthy ownership, especially on FanDuel in this main $1 million slate. Yeah. I would think I would be under the field if I was you. Is that your take as well?
Very much so. Adam and I had another discussion about it today. I can't even really understand why he would be in the 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, well, like clearly I understand why he's in the 40s. I can't imagine even being remotely close to that number. I don't see what the appeal could possibly be there.
Well, I think people just saw him score 2 fantasy points a minute and saw, hey, he's going to play 20 minutes now, and they're like, oh, cool, 40 for 5,000, that's good.
Right.
And it's just not that foregone of a damn conclusion. I think 2 points a minute is well in excess of him at any point, and it's a good matchup. So, I mean, those are the 3 reasons that people have put forward. But even against the Lakers, you play this game out 1 million times, he's going to average, I'll be generous, 1.6 fantasy points a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.75 you could talk me into, or something like that. But, that's 32 or 34 or 35 fantasy points. And again, I think, and on Yahoo, we were talking about for a minute, I also love Julius Randle. He's just a power forward there, but he's the 3rd center who I would paint my house with today. You're looking at, So, but having the existence of Randle and Vooch on FanDuel, where neither is priced too badly on a site that tends to bend you over pretty good for the centers, I would be inclined to fade that chalk, spend a few $1,000s, and have lots of certainly Randle and Vooch.
Yeah, that's basically how we laid it out this morning. Tons of Randall, tons of Vooch, even Marc Gasol, who I think is like 7,300 or something.
Sure. Very doable. When you get Anthony Davis out of there, that matchup gets much nicer, much easier, much closer. Again, they've played twice earlier this year, and Pelias did blow them out one time, but I would think this match stays a little bit closer now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about dudes on FanDuel, because again, I do think we will see some overlay there. So let's talk player by player,
sure,
and try to, because I think that tournament fills 900,000 in, $1 million out, $100,000 in overlay. I want people to really target. And again, there is no DraftKings slate for 3 hours or something, so I'm going to put out my rankings in an hour for DraftKings, which will still be well earlier than they are, and I'll hang out and chat for a few hours. But let's really focus on FanDuel for a bit.
I totally agree. If you're looking for DraftKings hints and stuff right now, this is not going to be the spot for you for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly mention them where they come up as apropos, and I'm like, I see a guy, and it's like, oh yeah, I really want to remember that this guy is too cheap on DK. Although there isn't a lot of that today.
There's not.
That I've noticed. There's some pricing breaks on Yahoo I like. There's some pricing breaks on FanDuel I like. Offhand, I'm trying to think of a mispriced player on DK, and nothing is hitting me upside the head, like badly mispriced. Anyway, we'll hit it if we get to it, but that's what she said. So, I like throwing now we haven't projected for some decent ownership already, but I like taking a shot at Ben Simmons and being like, well, we probably won't have that news by lock, but if either Butler or Embiid are out, he's in a just beautiful spot. And even if they're not, you can certainly get there.
Yeah, that 10K price tag is a little scary.
Yeah.
And it does seem like our ownership is projecting as if one of those guys are out. I don't really have a feel for it either way. It makes me nervous that Simmons is at 24%. Because I'd want to go there, but it seems like people are already there. So maybe the play is soaking up Embiid if he really is 5%. Which
there's a hilarious question as to what is the like. If he is 5%, I think he's a great play. The number's north of that where he's not a good play. There is some number, be it 9 or 12 or 15, and it depends on. Let's assume for the moment he is 50-50 to play. And I think that's not correct. I think he's probably closer to 70-30 to play. That would be my gut on it. He has played through questionable much more frequently than not.
Yeah.
Managed to push it through the last game, getting treatment the whole game. I don't think they should be playing him as much as they are, but I don't know how much pressure he's putting on them to some sort of, I don't know, how much he's pushing them, but he's clearly beat up where every second he's off the court, he's getting treatment.
Yeah.
I find it odd, but he's obviously pushing through all those questionable tags. They are not on a back-to-back, which is worth pointing out. I don't know if you guys got into that before, but nobody who played yesterday plays today, but the Mavericks, the Thunder, it's four Western teams. It's the Mavericks, the Thunder, the Trailblazers, and the Kings play tomorrow, but not the 76ers.
No.
So I think that's relevant for wondering whether or not he's necessarily going to suit up here. So I think he probably plays. And it's, factoring into everything. We talk about the ownership of Gasol, who we like, and Randall and Vooch, who I have a tier higher. They would be, I think, slightly more favored by me. But the presence of those guys who don't carry that uncertainty makes it interesting. But it's absolutely a spot in which, you would not be shocked to see 75 out of Embiid. I mean, we saw Jared Allen go off against this team without them having a true center, and the presence of absence of Kenneth Faried wouldn't change it a ton for me. So
no,
yeah, I still think, if we think 5% is about the number, I think just flat Joel Embiid entries right now are still worth it. But the presence of those other guys who we really like does detract from that a little bit.
You're saying everything that I completely agree with, so it's really hard to just come in and be like,
yes,
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100% here. Yeah, Kenneth Faried is certainly irrelevant to whether or not you want to play Joel Embiid. He is not a detriment whatsoever. It's better for them because it's actually a functional center that, should have been playing minutes in the NBA. He's
right.
Better than what he has been from a rotation standpoint, but he's not slowing Joel Embiid down.
No, I would think not. And again, it wouldn't. I would think 5% is probably about the right ownership. He's $11,000, and again, there's a lot of other centers we like, and a lot of people are sticking Harden in there. So, just really hard to get there.
Oh, absolutely. The price tag is a bit of a barrier, but at 5%, you feel pretty nice if you're right and have him in like 10% of your lineups.
Yeah.
That's just that you'll feel really happy because there's no limit to what he does to abuse the Rockets here.
No, I wouldn't think there's much of a ceiling there. Also, someone told me earlier today they were concerned about the matchup for James Harden. I do not have that opinion. Now, I haven't looked into whatever, but he seems like the kind of guy who generally sticks it in Philadelphia. So I don't have an issue with the matchup. I'm curious where you come down on that, but
one thing I want to touch on, we had a question in YouTube chat. Why is FanDuel left Fareed off the player pool? He's not available. He is not officially signed by the Rockets.
I'm shocked he's in the DK player pool as a member of Houston.
Yeah, he is not a member of Houston at this point.
That's presumptive. He is still technically on the Nets.
Yes.
Right now. He gets waived in theory at 5.
Yes.
And then can rapidly sign a contract and step on the court for Houston 3 hours after that.
Yep.
That's apparently possible. But I'm actually amazed, just having worked with DFS companies and stat providers for the last 7 years, that he somehow is currently in their player pool saying he's on Houston. Because he isn't. He is currently a member of the Brooklyn Nets. So that's weird as all hell that they're doing presumptive. That reminds me, did Yahoo ever get any pushback on that whole putting Kyle Lowry in the pool, taking Kyle Lowry out of the pool thing? Because that's not kosher.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. And I was just going to say the same thing. Someone asked in the premium Slack, do you think Fareed will get added to the pool? And I was like, well, after all that Yahoo fuckery, there's no telling whether he gets added or not. But like,
you are never supposed to do that.
No.
That is not kosher, because
not the same day. If it's a contest 2 weeks out, something changes. They usually put like a banner like so and so has been added to the player pool.
And if it's like posted in terms or something, but like on a basketball slate to be like, all right, we made the slate at 7 p.m. yesterday, and we were presuming Kyle Lowry was sit, so he wasn't in the player pool until 5 o'clock the next day, and then was in for the last 2 hours. You can't do that. No. Like you have to give everyone the same choices from which to build their lineup. So yeah, that was a weird moment. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was bad.
We do that in Europe. They jump up and down on our face. Someone just said I tweeted Yahoo 4 times and they didn't respond, which
that's also what I would expect.
Yeah, but that is not how we play cricket. That is not acceptable. Woozy woozy.
Now, Harden matchup. We talked about how ball dominant guards have been roasting Philly basically all season. And if that's the genre of Kemba Walker or D'Angelo Russell, those guys have been fine. I'm going to go ahead and say that James Harden is in a higher class of ball dominant guard than those guys. So I can't imagine why this would be some sort of different matchup where that limits James Harden in some way.
He had 95 or something against them. Like a year and a half ago or something against the 76ers.
Yeah, I love him. The 14K price tag on FanDuel does nothing to deter me outside of the fact that it is, large. But
it's a number. I mean, it's. I don't have a problem. I do not love him so much that I look at lineups without him and go, "That's a mistake." Like there are
not at all.
They're like, if your shooting guards are, Buddy Hield and D'Angelo Russell, I can see you getting 40 and 50 out of those two guys, and then if there's 75 out of Harden, you may still very easily be floating, but. I'm not avoiding Harden.
I mean, I think he's the best shooting guard option on the slate. It just changes the way that you can build lineup. So there's a natural ceiling to what you need to do because you can only fit in so much garbage.
Yep.
But it doesn't get much better than that based on everything that's happened this entire season against the Sixers.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. So, point guard is a little thin on FanDuel. I do like Conley more than Fox at similar price tags. If you're playing that high 7s, 8 range as opposed to 10, what do you think about Conley and Fox?
Conley is my number 2. Fox is my number 7. So same page. I love Conley today.
Okay. I like Taurean Prince a lot at 4,100.
That's the weird one to me, and it's not as if I don't like him. He's 5th for me. He's garnering a pretty decent chunk of ownership.
Let me guess, 5th after Lance, Ingram, Durant, Mirotic. Are those four right?
Yeah, and you said them in the correct order if you're working your way up too.
Oh, really? That's
Mirotic,
hilarious.
Durant, Ingram, Lance, and then Prince. So you said them in the order you would work your way up the list.
So I'm missing your best.
No, you got Mirotic. Mirotic 1, Durant 2, Ingram 3, Lance 4, Prince 5.
Prince 5. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you nailed it better than you could have if you tried.
Sweet.
I like it. I'm dubious of his minutes. I understand why he's popular. He's at 23% expected ownership. That seems close to fine to me. I think there are enough options at small forward because I don't think that it's terribly sexy of a position today. That if he's heavily owned, and that not that is a heavy number, but I could just as easily throw a couple extra percentage points to Damari Carroll or Jonathan Isaac now, or Wilson Chandler if you think that a couple guys are going to be out and he soaks up some extra time. So I get it. He grades out really well. I don't necessarily need to prioritize him the way that this position is currently constituted.
Let's see. What do you think about minimum price Alex Caruso point guard punt?
I assume he doesn't get enough minutes to matter.
Yeah, I assume you're basically throwing it away. I mean, FanDuel steals are worth 3, so you just get weird shit. It's just a little easier for funny things to happen, but it's going to be pretty unlikely that he's going to score for you.
Yeah, they have less minutes available than it seems because of the way that they play Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma and Josh Hart and
Luke.
And we know that we're going to have to take 48 of the minutes and redistribute them through the 3 big men. So there's not as much going around, and it seems as though Luke Walton would prioritize Lance as the secondary ball handler here before Caruso. Could be wrong, but I don't have Caruso as super playable.
Yeah, no, I'd say he's done the very outside of playable, and almost certainly you're going to be dry. I would rather, if possible, play. Your point guard punts are probably an order of preference for me. It depends if you go all the way up to 4,400. Because if you go up to 4,400, you get Shelvin Mack and Tyler Johnson, I think. But if you're in the threes, I think it's Shabazz Napier.
Yeah, that's fine with me. As long as he starts to get minutes again. He burned me whatever that first game back was where he played like 8 minutes.
Yeah, he played again 20 whatever last game, and I think Sacramento is pretty likely to go that way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think they probably end up smallish.
Yeah, so then Napier does work out really well in that spot, and he's good. I mean, he's better than all of those guys in that range.
Yeah, he's definitely there. I think you can do Shelvin Mack. I think you can, on a, when you're with 200K to first, don't mind getting a little funky. Is there anyone you like in the Miami-Boston game? Because that game's fugly.
I wish they would just burn that and they should just remove it from the slate.
It's like the quarter of the DK slate, man.
I hate it so much. Like, I think Kyrie is fine. Yeah. I think Jason Tatum is fine.
I think James Johnson is fine.
I was an advocate of James Johnson earlier today. You just have to treat every Heat slate like, okay, James Johnson might play 8 minutes today. Because
is 8 would surprise me again, but it's obviously been, we've seen some 10s. Like the one time it was 8, he got sick.
Yeah.
Like there was one game, 7 games ago, he started, played 8 minutes in the first quarter and didn't return due to illness. So 8 is unlikely, but yeah, I only mention it because I expect to see lots of Harry Giles, which makes plenty of sense. But at that much lower ownership.
I prefer James Johnson to Harry Giles, independent of the ownership. The Giles ownership just makes it even easier.
Interesting. Independent of the ownership, I think in the matchups I would barely have Giles, because I do have them for pretty similar minutes, and I think I just slightly prefer Giles. But I take your point, given, quadruple the ownership, or probably even more than that. That makes sense. Ed Davis, not out of play either for me if you're trying to get funny in that position.
Just make sure you don't have Jared Allen as your center in that same lineup.
Yep. Thoughts on Trae Young on FanDuel? Man, Trae Young on FanDuel is a beating just because no 3-point bonus, extra burn for losing turnovers. They're in a pace down spot. Like, obviously, he's in play on a slate this size. There is enough of a ceiling. I'm not going to look at a tournament lineup with Trae Young and be like, that's terrible. But, when it's like a grand more than DK, comparing the two, I guess just objectively, I don't think he's good at that price in that matchup. And then when you compare him to the DK price where he's much, much cheaper. So I have no issue if you play Trae Young. The point guard I want to mention is Elfrid Payton. 5,500, obviously. I think you look at that and go, something good can happen here. But only 16 minutes last game. That's obviously not the standard. He played close to 30 every game before that. I like Elf, but that combined with the matchup, I think of the guys who get the Anthony Davis boost, he's my least favorite.
I completely agree with you. He has been really bad. Now, you can't just immediately look at this. It's a small sample for Peyton. He was hurt for a large piece of this season, but in the minutes that he has been on the floor without Anthony Davis, he has been putrid from a fantasy perspective. The price tag looks appealing on the surface, knowing what we know, but he still grades out as like my 9th ranked point guard, so not a priority for me.
All right. Let's see. It is now... Okay, so from 2 to 230, it went from about 600,000 entries to 642,000 entries, which is where they are now. Let's assume it kicks up and goes 50% faster as we get towards a block. That would still mean that they end up getting 60,000 more, which would put them at about 700,000 in, which would be $840,000 in and $1 million out. So it's a pretty significant overlay. I will keep an eye on it and announce it every 15 minutes or so. But
yes,
if you have a FanDuel account, I would suggest dumping whatever random money you have in there. That maths out pretty good.
Yeah, I'm ready to lose some money on there.
Yeah, it seems like the right thing to do.
Do you have any other point guards you want to touch on?
I don't. So between Kyrie and Lillard, I think I would rather play Lillard in a tournament. What do you have there?
We have them at the same ownership right now. Yep. I have Kyrie grading out pretty significantly higher than Dame, which I don't love on the surface when I just look at it without digging into it. It doesn't make perfect sense to me. But then you think about it and it's, okay, this is not a particularly pacey spot. The Jazz defense is good. Potentially Ricky Rubio is back. I think that's probably a negative, at least a slight negative to Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like a tough spot for him to put up a monster day, but at the same time, it is Dame.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at the ownership on those two guys. I presumed you could get Lillard at less than Kyrie. If we had them the same, I would prefer Kyrie even for the $700. He's just had a bit more of that alpha gene recently where you're like, oh, look at what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. No, nothing else really to say at point guard that I can think of offhand, other than the fact that Rubio is up to questionable and should be, get news shortly before lock.
He practiced yesterday, I think, in full. So
yeah, so I think you can make some sort of argument for playing Rubio right now, but careful with your Royce O'Neal exposure, I guess, is where I would go there.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah. And I think you can play Jeremy Lin still. I'll say that too in tournaments.
Yeah, he's always mildly appealing. He's never off the map unless we know something weird about his minutes, because if he gets any additional run, like, he's one of the better players in the league at his salary level.
Yeah. I am with you.
Shooting guard is really difficult to talk about. Putting aside James Harden, everybody knows that Drew Holiday should be more appealing with AD off the floor. D'Angelo Russell at 7,900 is super appealing, but also the highest projected owned shooting guard. So you have to weigh that sort of information. I like being there with the field.
Higher than Harden?
Do I like being there higher than Harden, or is he higher than Harden?
Is he projected to be higher than James Harden?
25 to 22, so we're quibbling.
I figured they would be in the same neck, so that makes sense. Yeah, not a ton to add there. That all seems about where it should be. D-Russ has just really looked good recently. You look at those past dozen games, even if you just game log watch it. He's been doing some real damage, so shout out to him for that.
$5,900 Buddy Hield seems like some sort of weird misprice, or DraftKings is egregiously high.
Isn't that curious? No, that's he should be $7,000 plus on FanDuel. It's just really weird. He came down too after some number of good games, including that last one where he was just gorgeous. So I don't know, but yeah, that was peculiar to be
Kind of
sure.
crazy.
Yep, definitely a little hooey. What do you think about how much is each one more today? Trying to think of funny guys for tournaments or Mo Harkless. Each one more or Mo Harkless. There you go.
Tom Moore 4,500, Mo Harkless 4,300. I'd be surprised if I had either guy
Against Utah and Memphis too.
Yeah.
We're going full sexy.
And there's no telling. Mo Harkless can go from 30 minutes tonight to 0 by not playing. That dude, he might be one of the more brittle players in the entire league.
Front of a back-to-back too for them.
Yeah.
Aren't you any of those questions any good? I'm getting pinged, so people are asking us something.
Thoughts on Zubats? I don't know why I said it like that. Zubac? I don't know how to say it actually.
I think it's Zubac. I'm just reading it here. I think it's Zubac. Anyway, yeah, Zubac. I'm curious what we haven't projected at, because it's largely an ownership question. Did extremely. His sort of coming out game was against the Warriors on Christmas, where he had basically 40 fantasy points, if memory serves. That being said,
so proud of him for coming out.
Center now. Small upgrade for the Warriors at their starting center position.
He's at 1%, by the way.
He's at 1%. I like him at 1%.
So
I'm a big fan of 1%. He's of the three centers they're going to run out there, he's the upside guy. It's just that I expect him to play all three centers, and that's obviously putting a pretty decent cap on everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would happily take him if he was 1%.
Yeah, 1%. I'm like, oh, okay. Go ahead and throw a lineup with that guy in there. That sounds fun.
This will be a controversial take for the public, probably, maybe not for us. I'd rather have him than DeMarcus Cousins.
What do we have Cousins ownership at?
47.
Yep, so would I.
Yeah.
Cousins is fine, but if you ask me to project Cousins, and I'm curious how close this will be with Jeff, I will go with 18 minutes and 31.5 fantasy points, give or take. I think I'd land around there.
I have him in for 19 minutes. I'm probably low on the fantasy side of it. I have him at 24.4, like a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. I don't know how to I don't know how to manage his usage. I don't know how to manage what I think he'll do on a per minute basis.
Yeah.
He's like a 1.7 guy normally in the best case scenario, and he's coming back off of an Achilles injury. Admittedly, I'm guessing a bit. I don't mind bumping that up into the low 30s. That doesn't make him some sort of lock button for me either. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing in fantasy for me right now is the boogie love.
It is. It's a little peculiar. We'll see how that works. Thoughts on Josh Hart on FanDuel?
Let me scroll back up. He is a perfectly acceptable play. He's my 8th ranked shooting guard.
Kuzma starting, according to something that just flashed across my screen.
Ingram, Pope, Kuzma, Chandler, 5th starter up in the air.
Yeah, I would have presumed. Wait a minute. Whoa, sorry. Kuzma and Chandler? All right, so Kuzma at the 4.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's something interesting to talk about. I like him a lot now. There will not be that much time for people to respond. So I like him much more than Cousins now.
Yeah.
I liked him more than Cousins already. I like 1%. This will bump his ownership to only one center in FanDuel. I'll say 7%.
Hold on. What are you hearing now that you are talking about? I think either you're confused or I'm confused. Or I misspoke.
I thought we got news that Kuzma was starting at the 4. Or I'm sorry. I thought we got news that Zubac. I think I got Zubac and confused. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kuzma is starting at the 4.
Z's and U's confused, and I thought Kuzma said Zubac at the speed. We were talking about Zubac, and
yes, I got
Kuzma
you now.
Starting news flashed across the screen. So never mind. Ignore everything I just said.
Okay. I was like, yeah, he was pretty much only going to play the 4 today with the way that they've been running out these 3 bigs.
Yeah. Okay.
I got tripped up too.
Ignore everything I said for the last minute as some confusion took over the room. But all right. So Ingram, KCP, Kuzma, and Chandler starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meh.
I mean, is the 5th person in that really all that relevant?
Not really. It's
in terms of making your decisions, it really does not matter to me who that 5th person is.
Yeah, I kind of hope it isn't Lance.
It would surprise me if it were Lance.
Yeah, it would surprise me also. Probably maybe Hart. They're running small in this spot.
Yeah, that seems.
It had to be KCP and Ingram and Kuzma. You could have gotten McGee over Chandler. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, any one of those big guys is basically the same person.
Pretty close. I mean, it's interesting because like Chandler's the best defender against traditional centers. McGee is a better sort of like stat stuffing defensive center and good against certain lateral guys who stick more towards the mid range. Zubac is the worst defensively, but has the most well-rounded offensive game. Like he actually has better post moves, and
yeah,
they're not super exciting. Is Mirotic on FanDuel close to a lock? I don't think so. Just because there's Lance and there's Miro and there's Prince, who I like a fair amount at least. So, but he's my favorite small forward would be Mirotic. Do you have him as number one?
Number one.
There you go. That makes sense.
It's just, I mean, he's underpriced for the amount of minutes he will likely play.
Yeah. No, this is I have no problem with this.
Yeah, I'm right there with nobody's a lock button, but
yeah, no, nobody on the slate is remotely a lock button on me. If you told me I had to lock a player, that's always an interesting question. Purely heuristic and not terribly useful. It might be Miro. Cycle through the others. I think it might.
I would want to look at what the lineups looked like if I lock buttoned Harden.
Right.
Because I think the gap between Harden and the next closest guy at the position is bigger than any other spot.
That's a fair point.
But I would also want to know what that construction looks like afterwards. Otherwise, I'd feel pretty comfortable with Julius Randle.
Two names being mentioned as now for the fifth starter spot are Josh Hart and Svi Mikhailuk.
If Hart starts, it doesn't change anything for me. If Svi starts, he's worth looking at.
Yep. I'm curious what his, I assume he is a minimum price shooting guard on FanDuel. I'll go look now, but.
He is a minimum price shooting guard on FanDuel.
How about that?
So, yeah, I mean, you have at it with him. You don't need to go crazy with volume or anything, but a minimum price guy that is going to start is always in play for the most part.
Yeah. So I think the full name is Sviatoslav Mikhailuk, but if you are thusly inclined, I think that makes plenty of sense.
That dude needs a nickname.
Yes, he does. Well, it's Svi, I guess, but yes, maybe even further beyond that.
It's a shame that Big Burrito is already taken.
Oh, God, that's right. I had to ask what that was. I didn't know until someone was asking me questions. What do you think about the Big Burrito? And I'm like, I'm being asked about the Big Burrito, and I can't think they're literally talking about a large burrito. Yeah. Does anyone know? And then I think Chris was on the show with me, and he informed me.
Yeah, we found that out from Basketball Reference that Gasol had the nickname Big Burrito, which was interesting.
Obviously outstanding.
Yeah.
That's huge news. That's pretty exciting.
Is there a position that we need to talk about that really needs some digging? I mean, power forward is murky because the most expensive guy at power forward today is John Collins at 8,300.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this sea of dudes that are like Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is the chalkiest power forward.
Really? I'm really not thrilled with him.
No.
Like,
it's Jason Tatum and Harry Giles.
For me, I'm much more excited about Jaren Jackson Jr. there against New Orleans. Like, obviously there's foul trouble, whatever, but 6,100 is just a price that if shit actually goes right for him, he can demolish. Like, he's just super, super upside guy. He hasn't been good recently, but there's even some sort of kind of safe floor there in that he hasn't missed 20 fantasy points in 5 games, and he can just get enough steals and blocks if it randomly works out right. So like raw projection, I can't get there, but it's difficult to put into words in a tournament how much more excited I am to play Jaren Jackson Jr. against New Orleans as opposed to Jason Tatum against Miami.
Yeah. If Draymond Green is 7% owned and Jason Tatum is 28, I definitely like Draymond Green more.
Yeah, if Draymond Green was as owned as Jason Tatum, I would still like Draymond Green more.
So would I.
Like just 10 stocks. Just it's not that impossible to happen whatsoever. This is a great matchup for it, so I want upside, and basically everyone on Boston and Miami for those is healthy at this point, excepting Dragic and other guys who've been out for an extended period of time. Yeah, no, I would be, yeah, no, Draymond, and like I legitimately like Draymond and Jaren in tournaments. And there's certainly nothing wrong with Kuzma. I just expect him to. What do we have Kuzma at for ownership? It's got to be significant.
26. I guess I should check to see if we had any updates recently.
That seems like
we did. We had an update 4 minutes ago. So
perfect. Look at you having good instincts. You're so smart.
16 minutes left. What's the overlay, Sitch?
Oh, that's a great question. 60. Well, let me duplicate that, but it appears to be. Let's see. We are at 60, almost 68,000 entries out of 99,000 entries. So those came in the last 15 minutes. So that was about another. So yeah, it's my guess right now will be it fills about 735,000, which yeah, it's going to overlay somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $150,000. So it's gonna kick back a not insignificant amount here. So yes, get yourself some. We'll give you one more at 5 minutes, but I'll guess it gets to about 730,000. I think that's a reasonable.
Yeah, I'm going to put some entries in because I don't really see the choice.
Yes, free money is good.
Free money is very good.
Hashtag overlay.
Hence the reason that I've been playing so much Yahoo.
Yeah, and that's zero. This is going to be better than that. But I say this in some version pretty goddamn frequently, which is no advice I give you is going to be any better than the tournament you are playing, paying out $1.20 per dollar as opposed to 84 cents.
Yeah.
Like,
and not even close.
I say, assuming you are playing players who are playing is going to be that valuable.
Yeah.
So go do that.
That's probably really difficult for like a lot of people to grasp, but
I would hope not.
That tournament, any tournament that you can get in that is reducing the rake is immediately the first thing that you should be doing.
Yeah, it really, really is. Like, you are constantly trying to beat the rake, and one of the reasons DFS is really hard these days is because most people are playing just tournaments, and the rake is 15 or 16%. That's really hard to overcome long term. So you're trying to scrape 2% through your process, and 2% through your knowledge, and 1% from the accuracy of your projections, and 4% by having a good job on ownership, and it's really tough. But when you get rid of that 16% nut and then get it to 0 like it is on Yahoo, or positive 16 like it is on FanDuel, DFS gets pretty easy. I mean, I made a lot of money off DFS more than 4 years in a row. And it's not that I don't think I knew what I was doing, but it was also the fact that between incentives and overlay, literally I paid negative rake for the first 3 of those 4 years. I went back and calculated it. I literally, if you count incentives as in rake back and various other things and bonus dollars and drip and stuff, I paid negative rake most of those years. That made it a little easier to make money.
It'll help.
Shockingly.
It's a lot like if you have a company that's offering any sort of 401k match, you should put in every single dollar you can up until their match cap. Free money is the best money that you can possibly acquire.
Yes, thou speakest aright. Someone asked what I thought about Muscala as a FanDuel punt. I'm a fan. I think it's like 3,800 power forward. I want to get that right. It was center. Let's look at punt centers. That's an interesting question. Right. I feel like there was someone else I liked, like at or near the minimum. Maybe it was one of the Lakers guys.
Muscala 37, Mo Bamba 37. I mean, Zubac 43. If you're feeling froggy, Alex Len is 47. If we're talking about just low price guys, otherwise you're getting into, if you really like Tyson Chandler or something, there's not a lot there.
Aaron Baines, Kevon Looney looked spry off the bench last game.
Yeah, but like how many minutes could he possibly be playing now?
He played 27 last game.
Did he really? Well,
yeah.
Kudos.
He played 27 minutes in the last game, which is, and against the Lakers, and the Lakers benching, all of a sudden, I kind of like that. I would have a Kevon Looney in something if I was looking down in that area. Probably not as much as I like Zubac, but not out of play, and certainly the ownership is going to be low. Your Kevon Looney ownership will be small. Not to mention, sexy leverage against Boogie. How about that?
It really is.
How about that?
Yeah, center is I don't see the need to punt center with how good Vooch and Randall and Embiid to an extent, if you're willing to take the risk of him playing or not. Marc Gasol.
Yeah. No, one lineup, I think it's nuts. I don't think your ideal lineup construction is punting center.
No. There's not enough otherwise that requires you to pay up.
Yeah.
Today. It's just not there.
I concur. Thou speakest aright.
Yeah. Let's see. We've hit on a lot in 49 minutes. Trying to take a look at additional questions here. Do we like Gasol on FanDuel center? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. The ownership is going to be so much lower than it should be. It's Marc Gasol too. Marc Gasol, when he says, like, I don't know if I'm going to go, like, he goes more often than any questionable player in history, and I think he's actually probable, so he's going to play.
Yeah, I believe he is probable. That's why I have not had a single issue. Wow, that's interesting. Oh, never mind. I just couldn't see the green. I wonder if I'm mildly colorblind. It's just a really hard. I ignored all of these green up arrows on salary at point guard. I looked at it and I was like, oh, wow. Every point guard on FanDuel has had a reduction in price or no change in price, but I missed like 6 green arrows vertically.
If I ignore those whose price rise.
Yeah. What do you think of Steph Curry? He's a guy that we haven't talked about in a spot that seems really good, and I feel like the Warriors are just mildly being slept on today, but he grades out as my number 1 point guard.
Yeah, he's I think he's a nice Ben Simmons pivot. Is obviously same amount price, and obviously it's Steph Curry, contains with him a pretty significant upside. I do worry that they're all not priced quite right for having Boogie in there. Like, they just went from Kevon Looney 11% usage to Boogie 30% usage. That has to, over the long haul, not be great, but the matchup is so good against the Lakers, and I imagine it's Lakers sans Lonzo, so actually the defense is going to take another significant step down. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Steph. I do think long term, though, once you add Boogie to that starting lineup, everyone's losing, 1.5 projected fantasy production in most matchups. So I imagine they're not going to be priced particularly ideally for a little bit. But outside of that, yeah, I'm in.
Okay. What about Durant? Same story?
Yeah, basically the same thing. Probably slightly prefer, due to positionality, Curry, because point guard is just much more specious than small forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically same story beyond that analysis.
Okay. Steph or Simmons on FanDuel cash?
Simmons.
Ugh.
Cash, I guess that's a little bit dicey. I don't know. What are the odds one of those other two guys sits? I'll say 50-50 that one of them sits at least. If we think that's the case, then right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's so hard to imagine he doesn't get there then, and the game is closer, and yada yada yada. So I get the Steph feels like a much better cash game play, as well he should, but
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think barely Simmons for me, but it's certainly not, cut and dry.
Yeah, that's a very coin flippy answer.
Yeah, I'm with you in saying that I could go either way.
I did see one here that I thought was interesting. Where did I lose it to? Prince or Lance on FanDuel?
Raw points, I would still have to barely stick with Taurean Prince, and I expect him to be lower owned. So I probably would have Taurean Prince in both cash and tournaments. If the money is doing nothing for you, if that I think $600 is buying you something, well, then that's a different kettle of fish.
It is a different kettle. Someone asked me what my JaMychal Green exposure will be on FanDuel. I assume the answer is 0.
I would think close to 0. I mean, it's a good spot, but with Gasol back in there, I mean, JaMychal Green was a one-time thing, and we loved him and we will miss him. But yeah, I don't think that's quite necessary.
I would agree.
The other guys, I really don't mind Dwayne Dedmon in a tournament.
I agree.
Even at 6K. The ownership is just going to be really nice and can randomly get you 40. Again, not any crazy amount of exposure because of how good center is, but another guy that I don't mind there. I would probably go with like no Nurkic even at 150. He's looked really bad against Gobert. I went back and watched a lot of that. Like I don't mind going to Donovan Mitchell. I can see that working out. I don't mind looking at a number of guys in that game. But Nurkic I'd almost completely avoid. It's really hard to get there over paying up for. Like I need him to beat both of Vooch and Randall. That just seems really goddamn unlikely.
It does. I'm keeping my close eye here on FanDuel. I've got a crunch ready to be loaded in. Put some lineups in that biggie. Hey, maybe I'll get lucky and win $1 million. Kurucs or Eton Moore on Yahoo.
I was gonna say you can only win $200,000. I forgot the other way that you could
Little
win.
did you know that I'm going to get the optimal lineup randomly today.
You gotta.
I feel like they wouldn't pay that out to me, considering our affiliation.
That'd be funny. Some people might complain.
Ooh. Yeah, I'd go out on a limb and say that more than a couple people would.
Okay. I've ignored my boss several times on Skype. Please continue.
What else do we got? Thoughts on Kurucs? I'm not the right person to ask. So.
Like 12, 13 minutes, and everybody's starting to get healthy again. Like, not out of play because of the, $1 million bullshit. But little, you got to really want it. I'll put it that way. Someone asked Etuan Moore on, I think they're the same position on Yahoo. They're both minimum price. I would rather Etuan Moore without Anthony Davis than Kurucs.
I agree. Makes me nervous, but I agree. What else do we got here? Favorite $3,700 FanDuel punt between Nekstat and Giles.
Oh,
I think we've got already, but
yeah, I think Nekstat for me still.
Oh, my dog just dropped an absolute bomb in my office right now. It is putrid.
It is.
Thanks, but yeah, I think it just woke him up. Hey, buddy. Thanks a lot for that. Much obliged. Really appreciate it. It's fantastic, bud. I feel like he smeared it on my nose.
Making me my dog, although not in a terribly loving way. So.
Do you have any thoughts on Jonathan Simmons by any chance?
I mean, he's going to be in play at an incredibly nominal place on a. I mean, he's 3,700 at small forward, so I don't have an issue with him on FanDuel because you can drop him. And obviously, we're not talking about DK, and actually, his game is the 3:00 game, so basically not in play at all on DK.
Right.
So yeah, I'm fine with that at 3,700. He probably only plays 23 or 24 minutes. He doesn't get the full starter run that tends to, Terrence Ross isn't to get more run than he will, et cetera, et cetera. But I have no objection if that is where you end up at small forward.
Can you take a peek at Slack right now? We got 3 minutes left, and I want to try to make sure I get it.
Actually got up to 75,000 entries in a second now, so 2 minutes to go. Currently taking in 900K. Not quite, but about to get there. So we'll overlay, but apparently only $75,000 or 80, not the 100 or 100 and a quarter I thought last time I checked. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go at 74,681 entries. So assuming that's going to hit 75,000 in a second, if I'm doing the math right there, that's $900,000 in. So it'll take in 910, 920.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm set here and I don't have any egregious exposures.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to make sure you're not exposing yourself. And you don't want us exposing ourselves. Ghostbusters.
Great movie.
Yes, goat movie. Very good. They are rebooting it and ignoring the chick version, by the way.
No comment.
And then Leslie Jones was pissed. But yeah, they're rebooting it and pretending the girl one didn't happen, which that's the worst insult if you're in films. It's like, can we just pretend that didn't exist? Oh.
And that's exactly what they should do.
Probably. But it's not because it was women, because it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Bridesmaids. That's some funny shit.
Yeah,
but
hilarious movie.
Yeah, the movie has to be good.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a road we need to go down. Well, honestly, judging based on the gender profile of our YouTube channel, which skews 99.2% male, I think that we will probably be fine.
Yeah, I don't think the protests will show up outside your house anytime soon.
I would agree. All right, I got some lineups into that tournament. I probably shouldn't have, but I can't turn down free monies.
Free monies. I feel good. If you win 200K, I'll take a $0.5% $1,000 tip.
Well, if I win 200K, I can handle that.
Okay.
If I win the million, though, I'm not going to be associated with the website anymore.
Fair enough. You consider the Ghostbusters video game to be the third installment in the franchise. Yeah, they had that. Harold Ramis was involved. Everyone did the original voice work, so that was
it's in canon.
Pretty strong. Okay, I got to run. My boss is crawling up my butt, and I got to go back to my day job now. So snuck away for an hour. Good luck, everyone, in that tournament.
Yeah, have at it. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, but thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'll do DK rankings in a little bit, and I'll be around in chat to talk about the late slate.
There you go.
All right.
Eddie Fear, ladies and gentlemen.
Take care, everybody.
I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. We could take a look at these exposures or the ownership now that we have locked. Toters, by the way, no Jarrell Martin. I just saw that now. Let's see what we got here. See what kind of goods we have. What game locked? Ox Magic, okay. 20.5% on Prince. I played 30, which I wish that I didn't do. I thought I typed in a different number there. We'll be okay. There's upside on that play. There's upside. Let's take the headpiece out. Switch to solo. Close the peer in. How many people do we have here? 656. A little bit of a skip. Hit that like button, everybody. Live before lock, the promo code 50% off your first month with us. Let's see what else we've got going on here. What other exposures do we need to take a look at? Shrink that down a little bit. Still Prince at 20. Isaiah Briscoe at 3.7. That's probably a bit more aggressive than I would have liked. Okay, Trae Young at 10%. I don't think that I blew that out of the water for sure. Evan Fournier 8.3. John Collins 12. I like all of that. So Vooch 18%. Blew that out of the water. We'll take a look one more and then we'll get out of here. John Collins at 12. John Isaac at 6.7. Aaron Gordon, 0.5%. This one's for Eddie on the way out the door. Congratulations. You played yourself. Alrighty, hit that like button, everybody. I'm going to jump back into our premium Slack. If you want to join us, use the promo code live before lock. You can get 50% off your first monthly package. We'll be around for the rest of the day in Slack, gearing up for the 6 o'clock lock for DraftKings. So tune in. I'm out of here. Bye for the second time.